So I've cared for many babies in respiratory distress during cold and flu season, but it didn't change until it hit me. It hit my home. It was different. I was on the other side. So when I didn't have the tools to care for her at home and she was admitted when we took her to the hospital, I realized there's a gap. There's a gap from the hospital to home, and these babies need help.
Welcome to the Pure Wellness Podcast, where we talk about what it takes to live a holistic lifestyle by making conscious, healthier choices. Our hope is that these discussions will inspire you to strengthen your daily practice to improve overall physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. Pure Wellness Podcast provides information solely for educational purposes and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'm your host, Johanna Altman, founder of One Body Medicine, avid health enthusiast, and mother of 3. Join me and industry professionals as we explore human potential in the pursuit of pure wellness. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pure Wellness Podcast. Today, we're going to be exploring something very common that parents face, especially during cold and flu season, and that's baby congestion. And with me today, I have a very special guest. She's perfect to talk with us about this. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joanna, for having me here and letting me spread the word and spread awareness on baby congestion and cold and flu season.
Of course, we need your advice and help on this. So I wanted to have you tell the audience a little bit more about your background and how you came to create such an amazing product, Happy Breathing.
Yes. My name is Katie. I have been a pediatric and neonatal respiratory therapist for about 10 years now at a children's hospital, and I am also a mom of 3. I created Happy Breathing after my own daughter was hospitalized with RSV, and now she has long-term complications. So I made it my mission to create a product that is safe, gentle for home use in the comfort of their own home.
And how did you go about creating this? So I know you are a neonatal respiratory therapist, and you've been doing this for how long?
10 years.
10 years. Okay, so obviously having your daughter have her own congestion must have been something that was debilitating for you, because you see these other babies and you know what to do. You have the tools in the hospital. How did you feel when you were seeing her having these respiratory issues at home?
Yes. So I've cared for many babies in respiratory distress during cold and flu season, but it didn't change until it hit me. It hit my home. It was different. I was on the other side. So when I didn't have the tools to care for her at home and she was admitted when we took her to the hospital, I realized there's a gap. There's a gap from the hospital to home, and these babies need help. Mm-hmm. There has to be a solution. So this is when my aha moment came.
Yeah.
And I decided to hire an engineer and create a product that can safely remove congestion and mucus in the comfort of their own home. And it is the same strength as the hospital, and it can avoid complications and avoid those ER visits.
That's amazing. So I want to go into a little bit more detail. So how old was your daughter, and what exactly does she have? Is it asthma, and what are the complications? Because I want the audience to get an idea of how important it is to be mindful of their children's congestions, especially for babies.
Yes. So babies are nose breathers for the first few months of life. Mm-hmm. So anything blocking their airway, they can't sleep, they can't eat, and they can't breathe. This is what leads to complications such as dehydration and ER visits. So this is what happened to my daughter. She was 9 months old. She was really congested, and I was doing the manual with my mouth. And
was it the nose Frida?
Yes.
I know, because everyone told me with my babies, oh, get the nose Frida, which was a step up from the bulb. Do you remember the bulb? I feel like I have post-traumatic stress because my parents used to use that on me and it still exists.
It does. They still give it in the hospital, and the bulb is, removes what's on the surface, and the manual one, it is by mouth. So you need a lot of lung power to get that mucus out. However, with these viruses and them being so little and nose breathers, that the congestion just builds up, and it's very hard to remove that mucus if you don't have something that is hospital grade. So that is what happened to me when she was admitted. It was so much mucus, and it's more invasive once they're in the hospital. They're getting IVs. Mm-hmm. We're suctioning with a catheter. We're like going invasive in, and it's pretty scary. So this is when I decided to create a device. And now she has long-term complications, which when she gets a cold, she is called reactive airway, which is equivalent to asthma. So she relies on breathing treatment, sometimes steroids to get over a cold. So a cold for her is not just a cold. And there's a lot of parents out there who face the same challenges, because I still currently work in the hospital. So when I see them in the ER, it's like I do a whole education on having a plan when your baby gets sick, especially an asthma baby, because their lungs have so much inflammation that they're shut. There's really no air coming in and out. Mm-hmm. So if there's mucus on top of that, it just makes it worse. So that's when you see the retractions. Mm-hmm. They're having a hard time breathing. The breathing treatments are not working at home. Mm-hmm. So I always recommend suction that mucus out, give the breathing treatment, and, go from there. If they're in distress, then yes, come into the emergency room.
So what are, for parents out there that have babies, we're in cold and flu season, and they maybe hear some noise coming from their baby, or, maybe they're fussy at night, right? When congestion seems to be a little bit more prevalent. What are some of the signs that parents can look for when the babies are having difficulty breathing?
Yes, like I mentioned before, babies under the age of 1 are primarily nose breathers because they need to eat. This is why they breathe through their nose. So anything blocking that stops them from feeding well, sleeping well. So if they're irritable and someone has been sick, most likely they are getting that cold. Mm-hmm. And it's very crucial to suction them day 1 or 2 as opposed to day 3 and 4, because that mucus just builds up and it stays in their little lungs, and it just layers and layers. And then it's pretty hard to get out if you have the mouth one or the bulb, if you don't have a hospital
Why
grade.
do we have the bulb? Like, it's I feel like it's very difficult to clean, first of all. Like, there's no way that's sanitary compared to other aspirators.
Yes, it's very difficult to clean. I'm not sure why they give it. My mission and goal is that everyone in every household in the U.S. should have a hospital grade nasal aspirator.
Well, it's available now, and it's affordable. So I agree with you.
Yes.
The other thing, I do have an experience with a nose Frida, because when my twins were babies and they first had their cold, the doctor was like, okay, well, you need to get this nose Frida. And I'm like, what is that? And it's the manual one where you have to literally suck the boogers out of this thing. And there's a sponge that's supposed to catch it. But let me tell you, it doesn't catch it all the time. So if my kids are sick and I'm not sick, I'm catching whatever it is they have.
Yes, you're catching. And, suctioning for them is very important. So if you're using the manual one, it's okay. Use the manual one, but when they have RSV, rhinoentero, flu, those viruses on its own produce so much mucus that it makes it very hard for parents to manage. This is why right now during cold and flu season, we see 6-8 hour waits in the ER.
Oh, you do?
We do.
You're seeing that now?
And these babies, sometimes we look at them and we're like, oh no, they should have been here yesterday. Their work of breathing just gets, worse.
Okay, so I have a question, because it seems like between a day or two, if we catch this, mucus, this time frame of being able to suction out the mucus, it can really lead to further complications. So what are the first signs? Just like a sniffle?
So
like what are the first signs?
The first signs for babies, they are not like us, right? They don't know how to blow their nose. So they rely on parents or caregivers to care for them when they do get sick. And you don't have to be sick to have congestion. There is babies that are born and they have allergies, reflux, the dust, or sometimes they're just born with extra fluid. So you need to remove that. So essentially anything blocking their airway needs to be suctioned. However, when they are sick, the first signs are they're irritable, they're not feeding, they're not latching, they're fussy, they're not bottle feeding, and they don't want to sleep. And parents know, it's like God gave us this instinct where you're like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're hearing that rattly sound because babies are so gentle and you can hear their breathing, right? When they're born, you're like, pretty much everything about your baby because you're staring at them 24/7.
Yeah.
And when you hear that rattly sound or you hear that they're coughing, they're not eating, they're not feeding, those are the first signs. If they have a fever, as well, if you have toddlers in your home or adults that got sick, then okay, the baby is going to get something. Yes. And babies, like I said, they don't show mucus, so they do rely on us. So if they're not feeding, suction them before feeding. Drop like a drop or two of saline and just suction.
I was going to ask you about saline.
Yes.
And your thoughts on that.
Yes. Saline is very important because it loosens up the mucus. It loosens up the mucus. Humidification is important too because it just keeps their airways moist. So you pretty much, it's like a road, right?
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we can do just to prevent also, right?
Yes, preventative. I just met a mom that she just had twins and I saw her last weekend at the Prego Expo and she's like, I want to give you a kiss. She said one of her twins was born with severe reflux. So she uses a hospital grade every single day. That way her baby can feed and grow the way they're supposed to. And with a cold, it doesn't matter what virus it is. It is just how you care for them that makes the big difference. I see a lot of parents having the stroller, the crib, but what is your plan when your baby gets sick? You need to have a sick kit.
Yeah.
Cough medicine, I don't recommend. There's so little. Having humidification, saline, a hospital grade nasal aspirator, a thermometer, you can have that. Those are like the simple things you can have. If you can suction your baby and they're still feeding and sleeping and they're sick but comfortable, they're going to get through that cold and your stress level is just going to be less instead of not being prepared, right? Because then you're on Google, you're online, you're
ChatGPT is now like my doctor.
Correct.
It's everybody's doctor, apparently.
Yes. And you're stressed out. But if you are ready, I recommend everyone to have a plan when their little one gets sick.
Here's my question. So we talked about the nasal constriction and the importance of having moisture and that mucus loosened. Can you talk more about the reflux? So you had mentioned the mom with the twins having acid reflux. Was it acid reflux?
Yes.
For the baby? So he was probably spitting up the food. So how is nasal aspirator how is something like that helpful for a baby that has reflux? Can you explain that?
Yes. So babies with reflux, right, they have that reflux and it's just kind of sitting in their tiny little airways and their nasal passages and they sound congested. Either, they're like spitting up more than often, but you do hear that rattly sound that you're saying, and suctioning them is very important. That way they can keep feeding. You can maintain them at home. Usually you have them upright most of the time and you are doing suctioning for them. Anything blocking their airway. I'm not sure if you've heard the brew episode.
No, I've not.
So the brew episode is like an unexplained event when a baby stops breathing. And we get this a lot in the hospital, in the ER. By the time they get to us, they're okay. So they don't know.
That's scary. What is that?
It is scary. It is scary. So they associate a brew episode with reflux.
Okay.
And this is why I'm such an advocate that if your baby has reflux or congested, anything blocking their airway, even if they're not sick, suction that out. Because that can lead to those episodes, right? Where they stop breathing, they turn color, and you don't know what to do. It is a scary time. This is why CPR is also important. If you have a baby, CPR is a must.
Yeah. We talked about a situation I had earlier. So this nasal aspirator, what I love about it too is my youngest one is not a baby anymore. He's 5, but believe it or not, he still can't blow his nose. Which is weird. I feel like that's weird, but maybe it's normal. And so I use it on him. I've been using your nasal aspirator on all my kids. The older ones, London and Ashton, they can blow their nose, but when they blow their nose, I feel like they're not getting all the mucus out. Yes. Even though they know how to blow their nose.
Yes, I still use it on my 4-year-old, and I have parents who use it on their 6, 7-year-olds because they have, they're autistic or they have a disability or they simply just can't blow their nose. I am also huge on toddlers getting suctioned because I see how a normal cold for them can lead into pneumonia, repeated ear infections. That is all associated with mucus. These little ones, these toddlers don't have the strength to blow all the way. So they do blow and you see it on the tissue and you're like, okay, they blew their nose, but not all the way.
So we need to be a little bit more vigilant as parents to know this because my older son, Ashton, last year, he had walking pneumonia. He caught it at school. And then a year later, he caught it again. But out of all my 3 children, he's the one that tends to get a little bit more congested. And I have not been vigilant in thinking the way now that I am thinking, having met you and using your product of, you know what? Maybe he needs more support because for whatever reason, he's still getting sick more. And now I know why.
Yes, a lot of kids like my own daughter who had RSV that has that long-term complications, her little lungs were compromised. So maybe your son has the same issue, right? This is why you see him repeatedly getting more sick than your other kids. He might have like long-term or short-term side effects from that walking pneumonia. Suctioning for them, like I said, it's very important. Even if you think like, okay, they blew, but not all the way. All that mucus that you hear in the middle of the night and they're tossing, they're turning, they can't sleep. You can suction that out. Either we wait for them to throw it up or we suction them. And it's easier at 4 or 5 years old. They can pretty much hold it and do it themselves. I have a lot of videos and a lot of babies, toddlers who do that. My own daughter, she's my suction queen. She turns it on, puts it on, and it's amazing to see that I can manage her at home and I don't have that stress of, I need to go to the ER. She's getting sick,
Or there's, what can I do if they're not getting better?
Yes. Even as a medical professional for the last 10 years, I wasn't able to keep her home when she had her RSV. So I can just imagine these poor parents out there that don't know there is a hospital grade, that suctioning is very important and can keep you out of the ER, with your baby.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this product. Do you want to share with everyone what it is? And I love the packaging, by the way. I think it's beautiful.
So this here is Happy Breathing. It is a hospital grade nasal aspirator. It is the same strength as a hospital, if you were to walk in a hospital. And there is a lot of parents that rely on hospital grade suction. If, their kids have chronic lung issues, if they're NICU babies, their little lungs are underdeveloped.
So that was the thing too. I didn't even draw a connection. Both of the twins are NICU babies. They were in the NICU for 14 days and they had to learn how to bottle feed.
Yes.
So now I'm drawing a connection and Ashton is one of the twins.
Yes. This is what I see most of the time. The chances of these NICU babies coming into the ER when they get their first cold are higher. Because their lungs are underdeveloped, they were compromised, they have lung issues. So these little ones need the support and there is a gap. They send them home with the syringe, with the bulb, right? With the
can we just get the nose Frida at least? Like
something, right? Better than the bulb. And that's why, like I mentioned, there's a gap. these little ones and parents as well, they already have PTSD from the alarms, being in the hospital, being, their babies are an extra support. And then you go home, they get their first cold and they're like, wait a minute, right? They're used to the nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists taking care of them. Now they have to take care of them.
I wish there was more education, like for parents who have had children in the NICU, that this was so important.
Yes, because this is what they're used to. This is what we suction NICU babies with in the hospital. So when they go home, there's a gap. And my mission is to bridge that gap. And I do travel this past weekend, I was in LA at the Prego Expo. So I was on stage educating new parents. And I was surprised that a lot of new parents don't know that babies are nose breathers for the first few months. And they didn't have a sick kit ready. So it just makes me so happy that I can make a difference and help them be prepared for that. So I feel like they'll always remember happy breathing when their baby gets their first cold. I feel like I'm there with them. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and open.
Okay.
This is just my thank you card. And I just upgraded my tips to silicone.
Okay.
Because I listened to my parents and they wanted something more gentle. The plastic is still gentle on its own, but silicone seems to be what parents prefer when their babies are newborns.
That makes sense.
It's just more soft for them. And then we are going to assemble it. We do offer 2 size nose tips to grow with your baby. So there is a newborn piece and a toddler piece. So essentially, this hospital grade will be with you for at least 5 years. It will take them through like their daycare years, preschool years, because that is when their babies get sick a lot.
And then do you think by age 5, 6, or maybe even 7, this is not something that parents, will have to worry about as much with their children because now they're able to blow their nose? Or is this something that you think, might carry them till their children are older, like 10?
That is the goal. Right? To have your baby learn to keep their noses clear and teaching them how to fully blow their nose, then you can stop this. So I do recommend happy breathing until they're about 4 or 5. Like I mentioned, I do have other kids that are 6, 7 that still use it. And if your baby needs it, just use it. It's not
now once they're older, they're a little bit older for this aspirator, and they have a cold. Right? What do you think about, because this is what I do with my kids. I use the NeilMed saline rinses and they love it.
That is amazing.
I'm getting them used to it at such an early age. They think it's a game. I mean, they squirt the saline in one nose and then it just comes out the other. But that's what I've been using to try to keep the mucus clear in their sinuses.
That is amazing. Yes, I would do that for them because it just teaches them, right? Like to have a clear nose, why it's so important to have, their airways clear. We do still see kids ages 12, 15 with pneumonia. It's very crucial. Mucus plays a big role because if it just sits there, it starts in the upper. Mucus starts in the upper, but as it gets lower into the lungs, it makes it harder to get out, right?
And that's when you need the medical intervention.
Yes, you need a medical. You hear that dry cough. They have the fevers. Now they have pneumonia. So wherever the pneumonia is, it's that part of the lung. It's not oxygenating correctly. So it makes it hard for them to, and it's so sad working in the children's hospital. I feel like I cry every time I work because I've cared for kids, babies all the way until like 15, 16, where a cold turned into they're on the ventilator, they're on ECMO, really? They're on life support. Right after COVID, we had an increase in deaths in RSV and it's so sad. This is why I make it my mission and just to educate parents to always suction your baby. And if they're older, still help them, right? Yeah. So support them.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot myself.
This is Happy Breathing. It does come with 3 levels of safe suction. I always recommend to start with level 1. And if that is sufficient with your baby, then that's all they need. As they get older and their mucus is thicker, you can go to 2 and 3. And it, like I mentioned, it has the silicone tip now. So it's softer. And it does come with the 2 sizes. And I can show you guys how to suction your baby. Here, let me move this.
I mean, this baby really needs to get suctioned off.
He does.
Okay.
Let me show you. So we are going to switch to the bigger tip for my little baby. And you don't have to go up your baby's nose. This is very safe. Just the tip.
Okay. And that's level 1?
That is only level 1, guys.
Oh, wow.
It's very gentle. Babies don't even feel it. They won't cry. As they get older, they cry. But that is normal, right? Nobody likes to be suctioned. No baby likes anything up their nose. But it is very important. They will cry for a few seconds, but they're going to be able to feed and sleep and do all the things that they need to do to grow.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So having traveled and kind of, you know, having this product come out just last year, right?
Yes.
You and I spoke before the podcast. It seems like this product is getting a lot of traction and there is a massive need.
Yes, I am getting a lot of traction. I do travel, so I spend 2024, 2025 traveling. Last week was my last show, and it is my parents, right? So I educate them. I sell them at the trade show, and I am now selling so many of these a month. And it is because they know the benefits. They see the value of having a hospital grade. So they essentially just refer it. If a parent loves something, they're going to tell their friend, they're going to tell their, you know, so that is how it's been growing. And, you know, I don't see this as a sales job. I see this more like I'm helping and I'm making a difference. I'm not only, you know, working bedside, I am outside of the hospital and still helping babies. And I love working with kids, and I see how, you know, this is very beneficial. I have a lot of NICU babies who use it, nurses, doctors. So it's amazing to see that it's making a difference.
It is.
Yesterday, I got this big letter, or like, it's not a letter, it's an email through Amazon from a shopper from Colorado. And she said that her 3-year-old has reactive airway induced by a previous hospital admission.
Which is what your daughter has.
So, which is what my daughter, and there's thousands of parents the same out there. So I just really connected with her. And she said she spent the last 2 Christmases in the ER. How sad is that? You know, and I work holidays, so I see how parents, you know, spend their holidays there. And that is all cold and flu, because we are currently in cold and flu season. It is October to March. And right now it is the peak time. So hearing that she is grateful, that she is so confident that this year she's going to be able to spend it home, it just made me so happy.
That's amazing. So for our viewers who want to get this product, find you, what is your website? Where can they buy the product?
So my website is www.happybreathingsuction.com. And on Amazon, it is Happy Breathing Nasal Aspirator.
Okay, amazing. I wanted one last question, Katie. For those parents who are watching this, and obviously you've educated a lot, in terms of what to look for, what we can do to prevent what's happening, you know, in our babies that can't speak for themselves. What is one takeaway?
One takeaway that I want to give every parent is to help your baby as soon as you see that they have their first signs of a cold. Help them that first and second day is very crucial, because viruses, especially RSV, they get worse before they get better. So they 3, 4, 5, it's like their peak. It starts kind of gradually going up. So those days, if you didn't suction day 1, 2, and 3, you're going to be in the hospital. Your baby's not going to feed. He's not sleeping. I've seen scenarios where the parent comes in, we call a code right away. Because the baby is in
you're
distress.
Calling code blue?
Oh, yes, code white. These babies are not breathing. Or we do,
oh my goodness.
Or we do a critical call on that room. And it is, you look at the baby and you're like, no, you're already setting up for intubation. I can just tell by the way the baby looks.
Oh my goodness.
This is why I say, we see a lot, and it's very crucial to help them. They're nose breathers. So anything blocking their airway needs to be suctioned. So we've had those scenarios, and it just breaks my heart because it's like, it's not the parent's fault. They don't know.
We are really not educated.
No, I wish that before a parent went home, or there was more resources on cold and flu, respiratory distress, because we've seen where, the baby comes in and we're like, oh no.
It's really that dire.
It's that dire because babies are healthy, right? If they're born healthy. So the number one reason why they go to the hospital, it is always respiratory distress. Something is going on, correct? If it's not trauma or anything like that, but it's cold related, then it's most likely mucus. They're wheezing. They need help. So, this is when I feel like this is something that's very important to help your baby as soon as they get sick. If you hear that rattly sound, if they're not feeding, just give a passive suction. Put some 1 or 2 drops, suction them. And if you're going to be amazed.
So the drops, when you say 1 or 2 drops, that's the saline in the nose before you do the suction to loosen the mucus that's
Yes, I would do 1 drop in each nostril. Let it sit for like 20, 30 seconds and then suction each nostril. In there.
This is amazing, Katie.
Thank you, Joanna.
You're doing God's work.
Thank you.
And I really enjoy this episode. I enjoy your product.
Thank you so much.
And, you're helping a lot of people.
Yes, I just feel like there's a gap, right? So I want to bridge that gap for parents and help them have their sick kit ready.
Yeah.
Like, what is your plan? Having a plan, especially for these asthma babies, is crucial. It's crucial.
Okay, parents, let's get this kit and be prepared for cold and flu season. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you, Joanna, for letting me come to your community and spreading awareness.
Of course. My pleasure.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored and brought to you by One Body Medicine. You can learn more by visiting onebodymedicine.com. That's the number 1, bodymedicine.com. You can also follow the show on social media under the handle Pure Wellness Pod. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.